Sure, let's pray. Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to join tonight as a group. As always, Lord, thank you for just a new year and excited about that. God, I ask you, Lord, just to be with us during this time of this weather and the cool temps, God, and I ask you, Lord, to be with those families out there that are maybe just struggling right now. Lord, I ask you, Lord, just keep all the kids and all these families safe that may be struggling with this cold weather. God, I ask you, Lord, just be with the city as it goes through this year. Be with the people that's protected and supported on a day-to-day basis. And God, I ask you, Lord, just be with the meeting tonight. Let the things be discussed be of the benefit for the people within it. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. And stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as you look over the agenda, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Lilly. Here. Mizell. Here. Rustin.
Here.
King. Here. Phillips. Here. Mayor Mitchell.
Here. And I think we have everybody here, so we have a quorum. And we'll move on to the first item on the agenda. As always, the consent agenda is approval of the minutes of the January 7th regular council meeting. Council members have a copy of those minutes in their package. They've had an opportunity to review those. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Okay, if not, let the record show the minutes are approved as written. And police department.
Okay. So everything's going well at the police department. Budget's good, vehicles good, equipment's good. We're still waiting on our new cars to come in. Hopefully by the end of this month, we'll have those in and on the road and ready to go. Highlights and opportunities. So, we have an incident, mid-December. I can't tell a whole lot about it because of HIPAA law, but I can tell you it occurred at Town Creek Apartments. It was a medical emergency. Corporal Rittenhouse and Officer Killingsworth got called out there. Rescue was some ways out. When they arrived on scene, they had somebody who was unresponsive, not breathing, no heartbeat. Both of them started CPR, continued CPR until rescue arrived. By the time rescue did arrive, they already had a heartbeat back, and the guy was saved. During while they were doing CPR, they also had to mitigate a lot of things. They had family that were coming at them, and so Killingsworth especially, and Rittenhouse, she did her job too. But being a young officer like that, he really mitigated the situation very well. As people would come up to him, he would give them little things to do. Hey, go get this person's ID. Can you go get their insurance information? They're going to need it when they come. Kind of giving them something to do to get them out of the way. But, being able to use CPR and bring somebody back is a rare event. That's just what it is. And we're super proud of these guys. They got letters of accommodation put in their file. They're also going to receive a certificate of merit at our next post meeting. We hand those out in-house. I just wanted to mention that. Issues and concerns. I didn't get a chance to put it on here, but we've got scams again. We've got people calling trying to do the courthouse scam where they tell you that you missed court. Come meet me at the sheriff's department at the courthouse, pay your fine. We've had a lot of people fall victim to this. We ask people that if this happens to you, please call us immediately. If there's some way to keep them on the phone, please do so. But we had it happen, and we got in the area, and we thought that we were going to be able to catch these people, and it just didn't pan out for us. But it'll happen eventually. But we please remind everybody that if somebody calls you and tells you you have a warrant to come pay your fine, that's not how the warrant system works. Okay. It's just not. We're not going to call you. Okay. Anyway, that's about it.
Okay. Well, good job. We're proud of all of our departments, especially proud of them.
They did a great job. Great job.
Any questions for the chief?
Yeah, I don't know if this is time to bring it up, but Chief, and I know police officers' duties aren't about really chasing dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I fully understand that. So I hate to bring it. It seems like it's a normal every year occurrence that even this week I've got 2 calls about dogs. In neighborhoods chasing people that are walking and running, and regardless if the dogs are aggressive or not, they're just scared,
Yeah.
And then just dogs just being noisy and all through the days and all this other stuff. I feel like this comes up every year at some point.
Yeah.
So I don't know what we do, and I don't know what we can do, and if there's some, I don't know. It's just a touchy subject because it's folks' dogs and it's in the yard, or maybe it's not in the yard, and so I think we really need to do something eventually, just to write some verbiage down and just, I don't know. Maybe we look at other municipalities and see what they have that don't have dog catchers, so to speak, just to see.
Well, we fall up under the state's,
Yeah.
allowing animals to roam at large. So if they'll call
Yeah,
and let us know, and we can catch up either to the dogs or find out who the owners are, then we can talk to the owners. We try to give them a warning to
Yeah.
first start with. If that doesn't work, then we'll move on to, a little bit more severe actions. Dogs barking, especially at night and things like that, do violate our I guess, nuisance ordinance.
Yeah.
But they need to call us and let us know so we can document it,
yeah.
to be able to do anything about it.
Yeah, and I hate that falls. You got more important things to do, but it's
Well,
a
I mean,
safety.
that's just-
It can be a safety concern, and
Yeah.
I really do think we talk about this every year, and it goes in spurts. And I've always been on the, and I think it's more on the homeowner or the dog owner versus. But I think it's just a matter of time, and I'm surprised. If kids walking down the street, run down the street, and the dog, that's a big, not necessarily a big risk for the city, but it's a big
Right.
risk for that homeowner that I don't even think they understand.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think it's good to bring awareness up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And-
If people are having dog issues, they need to call us, because
Yeah.
if we don't know anything about it, then.
Right.
But yeah, if you call us, that way we can take that first step of talking to the owners or even calling, Shelby County, Animal Control.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Well, I
heard
told
joggers are having a lot of issues with dogs chasing throughout town.
What now?
The joggers in town, they go all over.
Every now and then we'll hear about, little areas that they run through in joggers. But like I said, usually they'll come and tell us and let us know, and then we can go out and do something about it.
So the main thing is just report it.
Yes, exactly.
We
Yeah.
had that happen at the apartments with some of the elderly, because the dogs were coming in, and they did an excellent job. I mean, they were out there several times before they could make contact, but I think we haven't had that issue in a little while now. I don't want to speak it back up, but so far, they were able to kind of get that under control out there, so.
Yeah, but please don't, I don't want people to think that we've got better things to do.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because, I mean, that's part of our job, is getting things like that under control.
I had an Amazon lady come to my neighbor's house the other day.
Mhm.
She wouldn't get out because this big white dog was standing away.
Oh,
Yeah, well, they called me and said, "Hey, would you come over?" I said, "Well, heck no. I don't want any part of that big dog." I said, "Bring it over here and I'll take the package."
So as the chief said, the barking dogs are within our nuisance ordinance, so obviously we can call the police to that. The state law that he's talking about that we abide by does have provisions for animals who are deemed vicious or dangerous. Unfortunately, there's a process, before you can say that. And then there will be a requirement for those people who have a dog who is deemed vicious or dangerous to be contained in a fence. And if they don't do that, then you can file a complaint, and they would have to come to the municipal court, and there's potentials of fines, and et cetera, et cetera. So limited things that we can do, but there are some things that we can do.
I think the issue is dog may have a big bark and no bite, but you don't know that until they have a big
Absolutely.
bite and a big bark.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the challenge, that you don't, it scares you to death sometimes, especially people
Oh, yeah.
running stuff with headphones on now, and the dog comes up behind you, scared the daylight out of you.
Yeah.
So okay, good.
All righty. Anything else for the chief?
Do you still have just the one position open?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Admin.
Everything is going good in admin. We're just in the middle of receiving business license. Those renewals went out in December, and we're getting a lot of those in every day. The bottom section shows our budget. The top part is general fund, the bottom part is all other funds, and we are looking good so far.
So, we're actually overall not where we want to be. We're below where the budget plans, but the budget has planned in it revenues from various grants and things like that that we have not received yet because we're not at that point in time. So, I took a good look at that today just to make sure there wasn't any issues in there, and it's not. General fund looks really good, but, you know, we particularly got a lot of, grant money in there from the sewer project and stuff that, we haven't received yet, so. Okay. Any other questions for the clerk? Okay. Municipal court?
Everything's going well in court. We're still waiting to find out when Ashlyn goes to magistrate school because the person who taught magistrate school for the last 30 years has retired. Such a sad day. If you've ever had the pleasures of listening to Eric Locke, he's the best. So we're just waiting on that. And next court is, we will not have a second court in January, but so court will resume back on February the 11th.
Okay. Questions for the magistrate?
What's Ashlyn's last name?
Blackerby.
Any other questions? Okay. Public Works?
Everything's going good in public works and everything. We're just busy fighting the cold temperature and getting out trying to get the garbage up and stuff. They got out there this morning. I left it up to them when they wanted to start the stuff, but in the morning, I told them not to come in until about 8:30, and we'll either work over or we'll make the time that hour or so up and everything. Cause today they was out in it all day today, cause they started at 7 this morning.
Well, riding on the back of that truck, isn't that
Well,
cold?
I told him today not to read unless it was just have to. I know it's gonna take a little longer to get up in the front seat. I didn't want none of it hanging on the back of it.
It's gonna be 6 degrees.
Yeah, that'd be brutal.
So,
They were there this morning,
well,
early.
they've been going through the cold weather and everything. Other than that, everything else is running fine.
You know how we talk about wind chills all the time, making it colder? I was looking at this weather app and looking at tomorrow, and they call it the feels like temperature.
That's the
It's gonna feel warmer, and it has to do with moisture in the air and other things. So, I thought that was interesting. It's the first time I'd ever seen that, particularly on a really cold time like this. And again, you can only believe so much of that stuff, so.
Cold's cold. After it gets to a certain temperature, it
It's
doesn't matter.
All right. Any questions for Alan?
Yeah, I do. So how many days a week do y'all actually pick up garbage?
We pick up garbage here. We run household garbage on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we dump all the dumpsters, and sometimes we run some of them during them other 2 days.
Okay.
Some of the restaurants and stuff.
So you have how many employees now?
What I've got right now is just enough to keep the garbage
That's
picked
why
up.
I'm at, that's why
I need 5 people right now.
Don't have room for anything else at all with that. Okay.
But the ones I got now, they hanging in there and getting it done and stuff, and we work on other stuff that, we've been working on the turf in the back cage. Now we gotta find some more glue, cause the glue didn't go as far as we thought it was gonna go, and we tried some other stuff, and that was a waste of time. It wouldn't even go to hold it.
Probably freeze right now anyway.
So we got to find something what we had used, what they used out here, cause I had 5 gallons, and it took 5 gallons to put down that first piece to get it to stick. But it's gonna stick, and it'll look good once we get it down. We've got some of it cut, we've had to cut bad places out of it and everything, but they slowly working on it.
You'll have enough to finish, you think?
I believe I have enough to do 2 at the girls, and once we get them 2 done, we're gonna go do the 2 batting cages at the boys and see where we at before we go any further. I want to at least get two at each facility done that way. Both of them gets their fair share of it.
While we're talking about that, I saw some kids, sitting on the net of the pickleball court, sitting there just swinging like this. And I should have stopped and gone back and said something, but then I thought, well, I really don't have any right to. And then I kept thinking, I kept battling myself whether I should or not, and I didn't. But I did want to let you know, just in case y'all see them. And I don't remember what night it was.
What age children? I mean, teenagers?
Oh, they're teenagers, yeah.
We may need to put some sign, just a general sign, I mean,
Yeah,
obviously.
because I can't imagine those nets. I mean, there was 2 kids sitting on them and swinging.
Probably
They
need to
don't,
call-
they don't.
Too lazy to
Something
sit
else for
down,
you to
probably.
do. Probably need to call.
Too
the police
lazy to sit
department.
down.
Yeah, they didn't want to sit on the
Well,
ground.
see, like, you know, it was teenagers that set that tunnel on fire and that playground equipment up there and burned the whole through it with railroad flares and stuff. And that one section of tunnel was $1,000 to replace it.
Oh, I'll
Well,
say
they just sit
something
there and
next
burn a
time.
hole through it for the maintenance.
When did that happen?
That happened back here and before it got real cold and everything.
It's right when
But
school
it took a
started.
little while to get it.
Any other questions for Al? Excuse me, for Alan? Okay. We have any board meeting?
Wait, do you wanna do it or do you want me to do it? We had planning and zoning board meeting last, Thursday, no, 2 Thursdays ago. We just did a simple subdivision on Austin Farm Road, simple subdivision on Egg and Butter Road, and then Randy Goggins, brought the, plat for approval for Sector 6 of Springs Crossing.
How'd that look? Is Sector 6 back in the back?
It was 30 lots, so.
How many more sectors are left back there?
We asked him that, did he ever say how
He
many?
told me he had 10 to do and they're on 6, but didn't say how far they are into.
Yeah.
If they're into 7 yet or
Yeah,
starting.
he seems to be working back first and then he's coming forward. And I guess that makes some sense because you don't have trucks and equipment and stuff driving on the roads and stuff. And he's got that, new entrance that he's gonna be putting in on the front, east side. And so naturally, he doesn't wanna get that torn up, so I guess that makes sense to me anyway. That may not be the reason why he's doing it that way, but that's what I would think. Okay, any other boards? Okay. All right, Ricky wanted to discuss, park and recreation, so I'm gonna just turn it over to you.
Yeah, and Ashley can, we did meet last Monday. One of the, I guess the takeaways from that is that, so really what sparked this, I've been on record talking about restrooms and trash pickup at our parks and facilities for a long time. When I was at Disney World, and one of these free-for-all Facebook pages fired up, and somebody went to one of our ballparks and talked about how dirty and nasty and tore up our restrooms were. And so when stuff like that happens, just give a little background. You know, I've been in our parks for, I guess, about 15 years now. So I sort of take a little pride in, when somebody mentions that stuff, I sort of take a little pride and maybe a little offense to it and a little action. So we talked about in the Park and Rec Board meeting last week, that again, I just want to bring it back up this conversation, that I think it would be in the city's best interest to have a consistent process to clean those restrooms and pick up some trash in partnership with the local youth leagues, simply because of, what I just mentioned. I thought the answer would be, well, when seasons are not in, just lock those bathrooms up and don't let them use them. But as I got to thinking about that, I don't know that really is the answer. I mean, if you've got restrooms at ballparks and you've got visitors coming into the facilities now, I think they should be open. And if the answer is locking them, I still don't think there's enough activity through there. So say, for instance, I locked it today, seizures are not happening, somebody goes up there, the handle's broken off and the bathroom is still torn up. When it's not in season, you know, who's picking up trash up there by just local visitors? I mean, when it's not in seasons, who are cleaning those restrooms and tending to that? And really, if it's not just a bathroom, it's just getting somebody to go through there. I mean, the police ride through there just simply because they're on patrol.
The
So I
leagues
think,
are only there about 8 months, aren't they?
what's that?
8 months, the leagues are out there.
Yeah, I think you go mid-February to just say June, 1st of June. So you got 1st of June through August.
Haven't we talked about cameras possibly?
Yeah.
Toward the restrooms, I mean,
And I even went down the path of that. It's just you gotta splice off the county's Wi-Fi if you can get it over there. And actually, Charlene's son is the guy that I talked to over there. And so yeah, I mean, the cameras are a thing, but you know, I just think it really doesn't cost us any more money to monitor those restrooms. And I mean, I think the leagues do a lot of good things by picking up and monitoring the restrooms, but you know, I think they can only do so much in terms of, if nothing else than just the downtime. But I think if you do like a partnership deal, then I think those things get addressed pretty regularly. And the difficult part with the stuff in the complex is that it's different, I think, down here because there's not a lot of traffic in there, and really nobody's passing that every day. And so I get that too. I just, you know,
even though Lewis gets smashed all the time,
that's right.
you know, at the park.
So, you know, I wanted to bring that up, and you know, we talked about it in the Park and Rec Board meeting, and they support that. I just think I would think it'd be a good benefit for the city to identify some type of process to to do that. Couple of 2-3 days a week. You know, I think the more you stay on top of it, the better off it is.
So we have, what's the baseball season that the fields are used, baseball and softball?
March to
It probably goes mid-February to just say end of May, 1st of June.
And what about, and so that would apply for softball as well?
pretty close.
Okay, what about football?
Football typically starts up late August and goes to end of October.
So you only have November, December, January, and part of February that it's not used by something, right? Or at least
In
some
July.
part of it. Yeah, okay, so that's pretty close to the 8 months that you were talking about. Well, what about, we set up a little committee with the Recreation Board and Alan and anybody else on the council that would want to be a part of it? Anybody else? And sit down and talk about it, figure out what we think that process ought to be.
Like I said, I just think from all these, the houses and the activities and small families going in there, and I mean, I just think the restrooms, if they're there, they need to be utilized on some capacity. And I mean, the answer still may be locking them. I don't know.
We're used to that.
But I think if they're there, they need to be open in some capacity to be able to be used. And,
Especially when people are using the park or whatever.
yeah, I mean,
Well, sure.
yeah. So I don't know if it's I don't know. I just think it needs to be looked at in terms of just what can we do to help. And if we're not even doing it for the people that's in the city of Columbiana, just think about the visitors that are coming in. I think that's,
Well, there are kids who play out there too.
Oh, I
that
know
live
now.
in the city, so.
well, just a prime example, like for instance, down here at this owned by the girls softball field. You know, there's teachers take their classrooms over there all times during the day. And I mean, you know, kids, they go to the restroom, they may need to utilize that restroom versus going all the way back to the school. So, you know,
And I agree with you 100%. We need them clean and, you know, nice for visitors too. The plan is gonna have to be to figure out who and how to do it, because obviously they can't, you know. Al's team can't, you don't have anybody working right now to do it. If we did, we might could figure something out, but what can we do? Do you have any way, even if we all had like you said, get a committee together and talk, and when we were young and growing up, all of our parents chipped in and everything was kept up to par. It's just getting families, local families to help do that now.
Well, that
That
was,
we didn't charge.
I
mean, we
was
didn't
kinda
charge, we
gonna
did it.
pull on something similar to that and say, you mentioned the city doing it in partnership with the leagues. So if you could define what that partnership
Partnership
arrangement
is.
would be.
Right.
Is it gonna be volunteers? Is it gonna be financial contribution? But city, you know, there are facilities, obviously we need to maintain them. But then we have a lot of people who use them, obviously, and some of them are not city residents and et cetera. So, I just think you know, it would take us forever to sit here to cuss and discuss and try to come up with the process in this meeting. So that's why we need to come up with something to do it offline and make some suggestions of what we think we can do. And how many maintenance contracts do we have on facilities? Just one?
Just one.
Like for janitorial services and
Right.
stuff like that?
We don't. She's an employee, a part-time employee. We
Okay.
don't have a contract or anything.
So, other facilities like Old Mill Square and the rec center and places like that? we
She
don't have
does the
any?
rec center, senior center does her own stuff. Old Mill Square has a different company that cleans it,
Okay.
and that's the only thing that they clean.
Is that our contract?
But it is hard, cause I remember, you know,
We used to
that
do it
field
when it
was
was our
just,
kids.
yes,
Mhm.
that field, that was brand new field when we got it, and
Mhm.
it was hard. I mean, it was up to the
Parents.
parents and usually ended up with whoever was on the board at the time, you know,
I
who took
just
the
think
night
that-
to close and clean. But now there's so many more people. See, we didn't have the football. We only had baseball to worry about. So we never, I don't even think we had the park till later.
Yeah, it
No,
was just the
didn't.
fields.
It was
But
just the
I still-
fields.
I still
So-
think you end up with what's the old saying, 20% do 80% of the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
The minority of the
Yeah,
people do
so
the majority of the
It
work.
ends up being the board member.
Thank God for
But,
them.
and I do
Also,
remember,
it's the
we
same
used,
way, we had the only park in town for the longest time. So, you know, we lived the softball life for a lot of years, and I mean,
It's
I
hard.
you just clean
I
it,
just-
I mean.
I just think if you take away the parts where the pieces where the parts are active, you know, this last scenario it was 2 weeks ago. So,
Was that out at the board complex?
so I mean, I just think adds value of people walking through the park. I mean, I just think that adds a tremendous lot of value, but,
Well, the people don't care anymore. Take care of themselves.
so, anyway.
Could I ask you to do this? Would you reach out to all of us on the city council, city clerk and Alan, and whoever on the recreation board and or the leagues who would want to participate in a group to come together and let's figure it out, yeah. That's the best way to say it.
What about community service? You have young people that need points, you know,
That's an excellent idea.
community service.
We'll take it. We'll
Do they
take 'em.
still do
You know,
that?
Girl
They do.
Scouts,
They give
Boy
me five.
Scouts, you
They still
know, organizations like that can, you know,
Church group.
And I reached,
fraternities, you know.
yeah, and I reached out to Vicky's credit, I reached out a couple of years ago to people like in the juvenile place or whatever, and I never got really any movement from that, but, yeah, I mean, whatever it is, I just think that those groups come and go, so I mean, and people, so whatever it is, I just think it's beneficial to have something consistent, whatever it is, and, but yeah, that's a great choice, if we can just nail those people down. Used to, back in the day, they'd have inmates,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it go, well, it got to be where those work release inmates, those friends and family members would meet them at that site, and it got to where they just killed that whole process. So that was the perfect,
It was.
so anyway,
Okay.
that's all I got.
So you'll reach out to us?
Yep.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Anybody want to bring up? Okay. All right, so this is a resolution for award of the bid for the labor portion of the sports complex, lighting installation. So, you know, we let a contract for that lighting installation. Part of that, most of that was funded by a CDBG grant, and then the city matched that. So this is for, so the material was under one contract and the installation is under another. So this is for awarding the bid or authorizing me to sign the contract, because I think we've got the bid already for the installation of the lighting. So, any questions or discussions on that?
We did talk to the contractor, just briefly, and so if this gets approved, then they'll order the materials, I guess, was that tomorrow? And then they were talking about, now we're so pushed for time, but they were talking about they build a lot of these, units on the ground. When all of them are built, then they would take them out the pole to prevent some dark times up there now that we're getting into the season. So they said best case scenario that if they get everything goes timely, they could install these during the week of spring break with no downtime whatsoever. So, so that'd be beneficial. So
That's
they're ready to go.
everything but the football.
Everything but football, yep.
Okay. So, anyone care to introduce this resolution?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce resolution 012501, order of bid for sports complex relay installation.
Second.
Okay, and would the clerk call the roll, please?
Councilmember Lilly,
Yes.
Mizell,
Yes.
Rustin,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes. So the resolution is passed unanimously, so we should be able to get rocking and rolling on that. Okay. This is a contract that we have had in place, and this is basically a renewal, is it not? With Avenue for business license discovery, recovery on sales tax collection. So the purpose of this is to sign the renewal of this contract. The agreement is for a period of 36 months. And they basically take a commission, right, of what they collect for us. 45% of business license revenue collected, and which is equal to $5 per business license application mailed or faxed to the city. Anything else on that? Okay.
That's it.
Any questions? Discussion from anyone? Anyone care to introduce this resolution?
I'll introduce resolution 012502. It's authorization to sign a contract for business license discovery, recovery, and sales tax collection.
Second.
Okay, and would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Lilly,
Yes.
Mizell,
Yes.
Rustin,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes. Okay. Okay, this is discussion over potential matching funds for the RAISE grant application. I want to just sort of read through what the overall plan is for this thing. It's widen the existing two-lane street and Highway 70 to 3 or more lanes with turning lanes. You know, there are portions where the new subdivisions are where that has already been done, particularly down there around the 26 intersection. Potentially incorporate parkway or greenway medians in portions of the highway. Add pedestrian sidewalks and bike paths. Incorporate a walking and biking trail connecting affordable housing, being the new subdivisions, to the sports complex. Improve pedestrian intersection and crosswalk safety. Address storm drainage issues to mitigate flooding and the impact to underserved communities. And the estimated project cost we put down is $15 million. Now I'm going to kind of go through things here a little bit before we get into this. So this is the project area from Walton Street all the way to County Road 26, and that's about 2 miles. This shaded area is the economic opportunity zone that about 40% of Columbiana sits in, and here's the rest of it. So the couple of things. The sidewalks and bike paths. this road is really too busy, and even with the additional lanes, for a bike path. So the concept is for the bike path it's basically an extra wide sidewalk where the portion that is closest to the road would actually be for the pedestrians, and the bikes would be on the other side. When we did our storm drainage study, there was a proposal to replace this culvert right here and try to mitigate some of the flooding. This is Town Creek Apartments. You know, one of the threads we want to pull on is making sure that we are providing services to underserved communities, and so this being a rent subsidized facility, you know, hopefully help to address that. The greenways and the medians we thought would be something nice in this area right here. Because of the lanes that are there and the intersections and whatnot, we're not going to be able to get a lot out of that if we do that, because we only came up with about 3 different locations where it made sense that we could put those, at least the engineers did. All of the crosswalks and intersections would be improved with solar-powered flashing lights. You know, pedestrians would have push buttons so that they could activate those lights to cross in certain areas. The $15 million, this project will allow us up to $25 million. Our current estimate is over $25 million for all of the stuff that we've put in there. Now, I met with the engineers Friday, met with them again today, met with David Willingham from Shelby County. He's been a big help on this. Problems where we were thinking we could piggyback off of this Apple study that was completed in 21 on this section, which was proposing to do the same thing all the way up to McDowell Road and up to the sports complex. And we said, okay, we need to assess their cost estimate and make sure it's realistic. It appears that there were some things that were left out, and so the cost estimate that was in that study is probably going to be a bit higher. Now, when we looked at this area, there's significant amount of cost in there for things that we believe are potentially overestimated. So the engineers and David Willingham are looking at that to try to figure out ways that we can bring the cost down and get back into the box, hopefully around the 20 million area there. And that may make those greenways go away. It may make the bike paths only be on one side of the road instead of on both sides. And some of the costs associated with the storm drainage, we might be able to take a look at how we could reduce that. There is a statute in the Alabama law whenever, and this is obviously from 25 to 26, there is a state highway maintained by ALDOT. Whenever we get federal grant money to do these projects, ALDOT charges a 15% fee, administrative and inspection fee associated with that. That's way over $2 million just right there. There are some extensive fees on federal grants that are levied, or requirements, I should say, that cost money, levied by the federal government to acquire rights of way. We believed in our discussion, and I talked to David Willingham today, a lot of this in this area around the county shop and going back this way belongs to the county, and the county will be able to give us those rights of way. Some of these other landowners that we have here, we will be in touch with them, and we think because they will benefit from these things for example, High Point Development and, Randy Goggins and those folks, it's gonna benefit them for the development of their properties out there. We're optimistic that we might be able to get them to grant us the right of way, and we won't have to go through all these hoops that the federal government would require us if we were to purchase right of ways. There's a few other pieces of property over here that we would have to address with some of the property owners. Bottom line is, we think the estimate that we have right now is kind of gold-plated, and there was a tendency to put a worst-case scenario in the estimate as opposed to what we really think it is, and then on top of that, add a significant contingency fee, and then on top of that, you have the ALDOT charges, the federal government requirements, and so on. So we're optimistic we can get it back into the box. So you're not required to have, and by the way, this is this photograph. This was taken by the drone Friday morning. This was between 7 and 7:30, showing the traffic backed up here at the intersection of 25 and 70 and here. And so, what we hope the additional lanes and the turn lanes will do is reduce some of that traffic congestion there and keep it moving as opposed to stalling out there, and it'll make it obviously safer as well for turning traffic by being able to control that. When we did our kickoff, and people have been working feverishly on this since then, on the 23rd of December, we had a participant from the Freshwater Land Trust who participated in the application process for a couple of towns like Fairfield and in the state of Alabama who've gotten raised grants. And we talked about not needing a match, and she spoke up and said, but it would be real helpful if you could come up with a match. They like to see that the communities are invested in and committed to the project. Shelby County said whatever we matched, they would match. Whatever we put up, they would match it. I came up with a number to test it of $500,000. They said they would match that, so that would give us $1 million to put into this thing.
To give to ALDOT.
Pardon?
To give to ALDOT.
Well, yeah, because it's more than $2 million of it's going to go. Mm-hmm. Now, we're looking at that too. For example, this portion right here, the way the statute is reading, it's 15%. It used to be 13.6, and they just went up. But the way the statute is, it's 15% of the total value of the grant. But this right here is not an ALDOT road. This is West College Street. It's maintained and owned by the city of Columbiana. So we're going to try to find out how much of this stuff maybe ALDOT might back off on. We're going to try to get some of support and help from our state legislators to help us with all that. So hopefully we can make some of that stuff go away as well. But yeah, they just increased it from 13.6 to 15 within the last year or two as far as that fee is concerned. And the $500,000, this project will be awarded in June of 25, so that's the third quarter of, it'd be June of 25, so that would be the third quarter of the fiscal year. So we don't think there would be any grant money, as far as signing the details on the dotted line and saying, hey, you've got the grant, probably until the start of fiscal year 26. And the project would probably take a couple of years. You're talking about, probably 6 to 9 months minimum of engineering work associated with it to get put together, construction packages, bid packages, drawings, and all that kind of stuff. And then construction taking place mostly probably in fiscal year 27. So my thought was split that up, $250,000 and 26, $250,000. We would take it out of what we would normally allocate for street resurfacing. Since 21, we've averaged between $400,000 and $500,000 a year there. So 250 would come out of that. The other 250 or ever how much we allocated would go to other streets in Columbiana. If we don't get the grant, it's nothing, obviously. So that was kind of the idea that I had to do this. So then that's kind of where we are. Any questions?
So what are we looking at for the houses from the red light, well, not necessarily red light, but across from Dollar General on out, where they're right there close to the road?
Uh-huh.
So how's that gonna affect them?
So what we will do is it's going to provide them sidewalks, okay? So for pedestrian traffic to get to Dollar General, et
With
cetera.
the extra lane and the sidewalks, move it up into,
Well, there's right-of-way in some of those areas. I don't know if I don't know. I'd have to take a look at the drawing. So we're looking at, taking right-of-way from one side of the road to the other. If you go back here, you've
So it
got,
would not be on both sides.
pardon?
It would just be on one side.
No.
No.
It's, what we might do is we might not take the right-of-way, additional right-of-way that we acquire might not be equal on both sides of certain places. Out in this area right here, the right-of-way is around 125 feet, and you're already sitting right there at the traffic light, 4 lanes, okay? As you come inside this way, it gets down to about 80 feet somewhere past McDowell Road. So you got Phillips Circle right there. There's some stuff on there. And then you've got, this is Town Creek Apartments right here. So you might be able to take that right of way off of this side. I'd have to go, I looked at the engineering drawings. We discussed that in detail today. I don't have hard copies of the drawing. The engineer was, just putting his diagrams up there on the Zoom. And we also, David Willingham was taking a hard look at the rights of way and the space and whatnot. We did talk about, too, as we come down here, because of cost and because it starts getting narrower, that we would have the sidewalks only on one side of the road, at least the biking trail on only one side of the road. So they're taking a look at that. We had sidewalks and biking on both sides. Because of the cost, we're probably looking at making that where we will have, for most of the area, sidewalks on both sides, but maybe the biking trail only on the other, and then have a crosswalk where you would cross over, if you will, to get to the biking trail.
I've noticed.
So a lot of details still has to be worked out there. I apologize, I can't answer that question.
Well, I've noticed a lot of people, when I'm coming and going, that are walking or biking from Town Creek to Dollar General. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
see a lot of
like
people walking from Town
it
Creek to
seems
Dollar
like there's
General
more
myself.
than there, there's a lot.
Yeah.
I've noticed it.
And I do know there's at least one individual who rides his bike because he works at
yes.
Jack's
Mhm. I
from
love
Town
him.
Creek every day.
I love him.
And there are others. I mean, I asked Alan in the police department, it's kind of late to need, if you're out there and you see a pedestrian or you see a cyclist, have your guys take a picture to help us with, information here. We did this at, like I said, between 7 and 7:30 in the morning. I couldn't see from the drone. We actually have a video as well, in addition to these stills. I did not notice any pedestrians or cyclists at that time, but I've noticed the same thing you have, Kim, as far as the people walking to Dollar General.
The money you said you take from the paving projects,
Mhm.
does that money have to be used for these type projects, or could you use it for anything in the city?
No, you can't. It has to be, because that money for well, it depends. Depends upon where we allocate it from. If we use, for example, gas taxes, or if we use the capital improvement fund or something like that, it can only be used for certain things. Gas taxes are strictly for the road improvements, okay? Capital improvement fund can be used on roads, but can be used on other things as well. So it kind of depends upon where we say we're gonna, what funds out of all the city funds we're gonna use that money for. But if we were to allocate, say $400,000 for street repairs in 26, and say another 400 or 527, we would, and we got this grant, we would be committing $250,000 of it to this.
My concern is, I know we have this sewage debt that we're gonna have to figure out.
Right.
And I don't know if this can be tied to that at all from that money. If it can't,
The $20 million can't be used
no,
for
I'm
this.
saying from the 250 a year. Like, what if we didn't solve it? You see what I'm saying?
If we didn't solve what?
How we're gonna pay for it? I mean, we'd have to come up with some money at least for the first year or two, you know?
Of,
Whenever we're gonna have to repay that,
I think basically,
project out at the,
like
Okay.
Ashley's saying, I think I know what you're saying. That money that we want to allocate to this could be used for something else if we don't have to put money up.
now look,
That's what
I think this is
The
a good
grants,
thing.
yeah, but
I
I'm talking
do.
about the money you're putting up, what you're talking about, the 250 and 250. Is that what
The
you're saying,
share
Ashley?
Yeah, I'm just,
well, but my suggestion is it would be money that we would otherwise use for street projects anyway. You know, are we saying that because of the sewer project, we don't anticipating paving streets in the future?
I got a question, did y'all take in consideration upgrading the red light system out there? Cause we got stuff out there from the 60s and 70s and the late 80s.
You're talking about at 25?
In 70.
No.
Looking at about $500,000 there just to upgrade it.
No, we haven't taken that into consideration. We have taken into consideration the railroad crossing, that's enormously expensive, okay? And part of the reason why that's so expensive is, we can't do the work on it, the railroad has to do it, okay? And, we have to move the signals out. There's drainage culverts down by DHR that we won't replace, but we do have to extend them out. So they've done a really, really good job, and I'm extremely appreciative of the effort that they've put together in figuring out all the details. Right now, I do think they've come up with the worst case. We came up with an estimate of over $3.5 million for sewer line replacement. In our conversation today, we don't think that most of that sewer will need to be relocation, not replacement. Will need to be relocated. We took a look at the right of way that we already have there, where those new lines have been put in by the developers. They were put in basically and paid for by the property developers, High Point and Randy Goggins. And looking at them today, David, especially Willingham, was the one. He said, looks like to me you shouldn't have to relocate them. So that would be great, because that's a lot of money. That was over $3.5 million associated with that.
Gas lines.
Hmm?
Then you got them 2 gas lines that belongs to
Well,
Spire, that 6-inch high pressure and a 3-inch that runs out through there. And it's already up against the road in most places out through there.
well, all right. So I will connect you up with David and Marty. He's the engineer down in Auburn who's been doing most of the work on this, and talk about that. That's one of the challenges we have, is knowing where those things are, as we've learned when they were trying to do the paving out there on Center Street and whatnot. So, but anyway, so the only reason, like I said, we could submit this application, and if we were to get, say, $20 million, and it cost us $500,000 over a period of 2 years, that's a bargain. and doing something that I think is extremely valuable. We can submit it without it, but I recommend that we follow the recommendation of the people who've been involved with it and do it, and then if we don't get the grant, we, obviously it's nothing. Now going back to the sewer project, since you brought it up, okay. We are gonna have to make a decision, on how we're gonna finance the balance of that. We only have about a third of that project funded. Probably, in the third quarter of this fiscal year, which is coming up, pretty soon. So, the first part of it is being funded by sewer fees. It appears that we have significant revenue from the sewer department to pay the debt on a substantial part of the remaining amount, but assuming that it's all funded by state revolving fund money, which is 1.99% interest, which is the cheapest thing we can get. If we can't get state revolving fund money for all of it, then, and the ADEM has indicated that we probably will, but they can't make a commitment, if you will. So the balance of it that's not funded by sewer revenues, we would have to figure out how we would do that. I mentioned that potential of a 1 cent sales tax, and that would make up the shortfall. It would more than make up the shortfall and give us money for other things as well. But
We're gonna have to decide that this year.
we're going to have to, like I said, by the third quarter of this fiscal year, we need to make that decision. We are a lot of money has been spent by the contractor on the front end ordering materials, and there's quite a lot of work going on out there. And if we have to stop him because we don't have the funding, that's going to be expensive for us to start him back up again. Any delays that we have just cost money. So we don't want to do that. And again, I think we can do that. It's just we just need to figure out how we want to do it. It's not a matter of whether we can or we can't. It's just what's the best way to do it. So anyway,
Well, I guess my question is, since we can't use money from the paving to help with that, just in case, is it gonna affect our paving projects down the road?
so let me go back and make sure that we're not talking past each other.
Okay.
We don't use, all of our paving projects we have not been using only gas tax money, and we have not been using capital investment fund money. We've been just using the money that the city of Columbiana says, this is how much we want to spend for paving. Now, recently, in the last few years, we said, okay, we're gonna, because we've got this balance of money, funds that's been building up, and that's what it's to be used for. It's the reason why we get it. We said, we're gonna pay for some of it with that, quite a bit of it, as a matter of fact. Particularly what we've done this year. The plan was to use those funds to pay for a significant amount of it. But in the past, we've just paid for it with general fund revenues, by and large.
What's been the average per year?
That has been general fund revenues, or?
No, just for the paving project.
Well, the first year, fiscal year 21, that this administration came in, we budgeted $300,000. It has been, $400,000, $500,000. It's $1 million this year, but that's misleading because last year we didn't do anything simply because, and we just rolled it over into this year, simply because we were waiting for the Rebuild Alabama grant, and by the time we got it, it was just too late to award a contract and get started, so we just rolled it all over into this year. And so it was about from all funds.
And it doesn't mean you have to use it,
What?
the rollover money. Like,
That doesn't
for
mean.
paving, like we roll money
Well, it
over.
depends upon the sources of those rollover money. If it's Rebuild Alabama money, we have to use it for that. If it's, gas taxes, we have to use it for that. If it's capital improvement fund, no, it doesn't have to be used for paving, but it cannot be used for just anything. It has certain things it can be used for. So, so my point is, in the past, we've just generally used general fund money to fund paving projects. And like I said, we've been averaging, between $400,000 and $500,000 a year in our budget for that. And like I said, it's skewed higher this year because we had planned a little over $500,000 last year, again, using sources like the Rebuild Alabama grant, things like that. And then because we got the grant late, we just rolled it over into this year because we got burned once before with Center Street. We were optimistic we would get the Rebuild Alabama grant, but we didn't get it quickly. We got it just like we did this last year. We got it late in the year. And the folks on Center Street were sitting there with the street that was torn up since January. So we said, you need to go ahead and fix Center Street. And when they said, congratulations, you got the grant, we said, well, we've already fixed it, and you can't use the money. So we were optimistic that we would get it the next year because we didn't use it the year before, and we did. But once again, it was late. I was hoping we'd get it in the first tranche, but we didn't. We got it late. So that's why we rolled that money over to this year. And a significant amount of that paving has already been done.
Yeah, probably 90, well, just about it all of it, except the little strip up there at McMichael and, the alley
And the shop.
and the shop. Really the main
Yeah.
roads.
And the shop money, that could be, I suppose, capital improvement fund money, but not gas tax money because that's not a street, but the paving that area.
And you said the total cost of this would be how much?
We're not 100% sure. We're trying to get it down. I was hoping it was going to be 15 million or less, but it's right now it's the estimate's over 25. I'm hoping we can get it down around 20. Because I think those are things that we need to do because the traffic on that road's just going to get worse and worse, and so we need to.
So our
plan for the
investment
future.
will be very small percentage.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. And then, like I said, the county will match whatever we put up. And like I said, I threw the $500,000 number out, and they said, sure. And you know what? If we got $20 million, we may not have to spend that money until 27, any of it. But still, I think we should plan on it if we get it. Any other?
I just think that, I
Pardon?
just know that road and the traffic that is just horrific.
Well, here's the other thing too. I've got, I have been in touch with our congressional delegation at the both senators' offices and Congressman Palmer's office, and they are all behind this. AlDOT is behind this. David Willingham, to his credit, he went from Shelby County. He's a Shelby County engineer. He went and had a conversation with AlDOT, and they're excited about it. This project, this improvement of Highway 70, including the sidewalks and the bike paths and the widening, has been, it's in the comprehensive plan for the Regional Planning Commission of Greater Birmingham. It's in the comprehensive plan for Shelby County. In fact, it takes it all the way out to Highway 31, but it's way down the road. And it was even in our 2016 comprehensive plan to 4-lane, not do the 3-lane that we're talking about, to 4-lane. Mike Rada, who's Senator Tuberville's representative, said that the senator is really behind this. He's really wanting to know all the details because he's wanting to make sure that he gets an earmark for this project. Yeah, that's what he says anyway. I've spoken to Corley Ellis and Lance Bell, who's our state senator. they're all excited and behind it. I got an email today from and so we're gonna be getting the, letters of support from all of them to put in our application. I got an email from the Regional Planning Commission today.
We definitely needed 3-lane,
Yeah.
but we've got to have a sidewalk.
Well,
So
yeah,
that's really concerning
Yeah.
to me. Because those people, I mean,
The sidewalk, yeah.
and in addition to the letter of support from the Regional Planning Commission, they've attached an additional letter to say that there's a thing called the TIP for the state is divided up into various planning regions. And so they said we're going to include this letter to show that we're putting this project in the Transportation Improvement Program. And so anyway, we have a lot of folks who are backing us on it, and Lake City County is willing to put some skin in the game too. Now, the other thing that we're trying to do, we can't include it as a match, and we can't include it in the project, but because we have already paved this section of road right here, we want to show them that, hey, we've spent this money to do this, the city's committed, and we also have this drainage project that's going to put a new culvert at Depot Street, make improvements to this drainage tributary, and then run put some new sewer drops right there on College Street in front of Piggly Wiggly, and then run a sewer line from there into Town Creek. Those two projects together are about $1.1 million. We're putting that in the application. It is not included in the $20 million for the project, but it's an effort to show that, hey, the city's got skin in the game, and we're committed to these improvements and everything. By mitigating the flooding over here on Depot Street, there is a senior assisted living place. They're handicapped folks, rent subsidized. They usually come around by the post office and they're crossing the street. So we think, those sidewalks and those improved crosswalks with the flashing lights and everything would help for safety from those folks. We've had people who live out there come to this council meeting and say, hey, we needed to improve that crosswalk. And so we'll be doing that. We'll be improving the crosswalks in front of CTEC, where we've had a student in the past year who was hit by a car there. So, all good stuff. And then this would just be, this is 2 mile stretch of road, and then we're talking about another, 7 miles or so to Highway 31, and that becomes our connection to Interstate 65. And potential development in the industrial park. I've had some conversations recently with a company that's interested in a significant investment out there. And you're hearing a lot about it on the news right now in building a data center out there. This is not the cryptocurrency stuff. This is like AI data centers. It still requires a lot of power, just like crypto mining does, but anyway, that would create a lot of jobs, and they would tear down the old Greedy foundry and put a new facility up there, and it would improve what is otherwise a blighted, again, not necessarily part of this project, but transportation connectivity to that facility is an important part. I think it would help us to convince those folks who are interested in coming out here to put their facility there. So, things to think about. Any other questions, comments?
So the match that would come out of this, it would be used, restricted funds would go to this match, basically.
They
Next year.
could, as long as it's
Reason I said that,
the street projects or the capital fund. Like I said, we don't have to use restricted funds for what we budget for our streets and roads.
well, I think if you just, I'm trying to put it all together. So I think if the match is the way that we go, I think you're gonna have to cut back somewhere to try to improve another place. Does that make sense? In terms of like if it's restricted funds that we use for paving, then I think that max needs to come from that and do less paving for those 2 years.
So
versus-
I agree, we would do less other paving. We would be paving this instead of something else.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so the projects of paving navigates for that 2 years down the street versus here. And the reason I say that is because I like the restricted, if this goes down, I like the restricted funds piece better because we're already allocating that money to paving anyway versus a capital improvement fund where that's money that we can use to do anything else and it doesn't have to be paving. So that's why I asked that question.
Well, it does have, it's limited to capital projects.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but it's not, but like the restricted fund has to be toward paving, so I mean, I think,
Can I poke a hole in that right quick?
no, go ahead.
So this year, this $1 million that we're spending on street paving, we had built up a pretty good balance in those gas tax funds and capital improvement funds. We're using a big chunk of that this year. So, I don't know that we're gonna have $250,000 in '26 in those funds. So it would come like it always did in the past out of the general fund.
So how much is the actual grant itself without any match that they're given? Tell me that.
The maximum that we can get is $25 million. And again, no matches requirement. This was just a recommendation from the Freshwater Land Trust at our kickoff meeting and they participated with other cities and said they believed that it was important to come up with a match. Fairfield came up with $2 million. Their project was about 13 and some change, and then 2 million of that, so $11 million was grant money. Now, the way they got their money, which we don't have the luxury of, Fairfield put up $500,000, the city did. Jefferson County matched it, put $500,000 up.
Yeah,
But because it connected Birmingham put up money as well.
But, and I'm with you, I see all that, like, we still gotta come up with money, like we said, for the sewer, like we talked earlier. We got old fire trucks out there, we got so much other stuff, capital, that we really need to do rather than put up this, and that's just my opinion,
No,
yes,
I
we-
agree with
yes,
you
we
on the
need to do
fire
sidewalks,
truck.
it'd be great out there.
I don't think any of that stuff is more important than the work on this road. Now,
And if you remember correctly, when all this building started out there, I was the first one to say the traffic ain't gonna work. I was the first one to say that. And,
Well-
you know, so I know that. So I'm saying, why I'm saying that is because I don't disagree with that at all.
so
And sidewalks
it
and
is,
everything else.
it is, I don't know where else we would put those subdivisions. So the point is
Well, no, not even
we've got,
against them, I'm
we
just
have
saying.
to address, and I said then, when you said that, well, we have to figure out how to address those traffic problems. We have time to plan for them. So here's an opportunity to get a grant that is gonna pay for the vast majority of it.
Well, yeah, I'm not against the grant.
So-
And it doesn't mean we're gonna
I'm
get
not
it.
against the
Huh?
It doesn't mean we're gonna get it.
yeah.
No, it doesn't, but I tell you what, the work that's been done, the estimating and the detail, is much more than was in Fairfield's grant, application, which was pretty comprehensive, and that I've seen thus far, as far as the actual details of the project. And is much more detailed than was in the Apple study that the county and the Regional Planning Commission done. Now, that's one of the reasons why we were able to figure out that the Apple study kind of missed a few things. But so I think that will help, and then all the various support and the story that we're weaving together to meet all the objectives of the grant. And like I said, working with all the legislative representatives and trying to get their support. So, that's about all I know at this point in time. So what we have to do, if we are going to, and just remember, whatever we put up, the county's gonna match that. we have to include in our application, we have to include a resolution saying that we have agreed to, the city council has agreed to put this money up, so. Any other questions? Okay, so that brings us to the resolution. So the title of this thing, RAISE, is Rebuild American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. You know, those are terms, and the criteria in there were set by the prior administration. I think the priorities of the current administration may be a little bit different there. So again, I reached out to those legislative representatives and said, hey, is any of this going to change? They said, no, you go ahead and put your application in following those guidelines. But if we can, you know, show how we satisfy these sustainability and equity and deal with you know, underserved populations and things that we're doing for those, and at the same time, show how it addresses some of the infrastructure goals of the current administration. We're trying to weave all that stuff into it, if you will. So the grant would be good, and we think the match, at least I think, the match would be helpful in getting a positive consideration of the grant. So if there's not any more discussion or question, is there anyone care to introduce this resolution?
So for the sake of, does the resolution apply for the, does it apply to make an application for the grant alone? Do we have to pass the resolution and make the grant?
No,
Application.
it's only, the resolution just goes with the grant application to demonstrate that the city council has committed to these matching funds. But if we don't provide any matching funds, then
Did you say this year?
26 and 27.
Okay, so but so did you say that 26, all of our paving money's not, we've already got it spent?
No. We haven't budgeted anything for paving in 26. We haven't done a
Okay.
budget in 26. I'm just saying that we have averaged, the lowest being 300,000 in 2021. We've averaged about between $400,000 and $500,000 a year for paving budgets.
Okay.
And the first few years, most of that was just general fund money. But you know, this past year, we're using the gas tax money, the restricted funds, that's what it's for. It's for street repairs and capital improvement fund money.
But we will be able to use restricted funds for this.
We can use, yes, as long as it's applied to the street project, yes.
To the paving on this. Okay.
Yeah, and you know, paving and associated stuff, you know, that goes along with that. So if you have to relocate utilities to pave, that's all considered part of the paving project. This is basically a paving project.
Okay.
And like I said, you know, $500,000 out of 20 million is, we can definitely show that it's only going to the paving piece.
I'll introduce resolution 01-2503, application for raise grant and approval of matching funds.
Is there a second? Okay, I'll second the motion for the resolution. So, would the clerk call a roll?
Councilmember Lilly,
No.
Mizell,
No.
Rustin,
So, can I ask another question?
You can.
I go back to the question I asked earlier. So, if 250 is a number, just saying 26, how much do we forecast that money's going to be in that line item to pave? Restricted funds?
Unrestricted funds?
Yes.
Not
saying-
$250,000.
I don't know
We
what it
don't
would be
get-
right now.
The reason that we're paving so much now is because those funds have built up, but if we're gonna use it all this year for this paving project, it's gonna take a long time to build it back up.
We're not gonna
Basically.
use a lot, but I think, I mean, we're not gonna use it all, but we are gonna use a lot.
Yes, and that's just a
And-
restricted fund,
And I could go look at the,
funds.
I could go look at the budget, and I'm saying that, you know, there may be $50,000 left in those funds, maybe more than that, but.
And the reason I say that, so if 250 is the number, and there's, say for instance, there's $50 or $100,000 in that account, that means
It's coming out of.
it's got to come out of the general fund capital improvement account.
Well, there'll be more added this year, and there'll be more added next year, but it'd be, what is an average, you think, about a year, maybe 40,000
For
total?
all, yeah, because there's three
40,
different
50,
accounts,
yeah.
probably about 40, 50,000, maybe.
So
year.
so roughly 150,000
Over, yep.
would have to come out of the general fund or the capital improvement account for that, right? Just say rough numbers. I'm going to say no.
Councilmember King?
With that news, I'll have to say no as well.
Phillips?
No.
Mayor Mitchell?
Well, I say yes. I'm disappointed, but, you know,
And
we're gonna put the application
Yeah,
in
and
anyway.
I support the grant 101%. It's just that other piece just concerns me.
Okay. All right. So, we are going to use our, what's the line item? I'm trying to remember.
Other professional services.
For some citizen notification software. This would be things like, you know, you got inclement weather and we're gonna open the storm shelters and things like that. This does not require contract. We basically just place an order with these guys and, you know, we could cancel it at, we're probably obligated for a year or something,
just 1 year.
but then we can cancel it at any time.
It's sort of like an emergency alert thing. Like
Yeah, it
the tag.
is. And
I'm
I'll
getting
let
some
Char-
from other cities, and I don't know how I signed up for them,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
go ahead.
I'll let
So
Charlene explain it.
they
She
did
knows the details.
a very brief demo because it's very simple. So, it can mirror it's an app, if you want to get the app. It will mirror our website so you can get other information. But if you don't want to download the app, you can sign up to get a phone call or a text. And as long as I have my cell phone or laptop, I can put in the information of what goes out, like storm shelters are open, city hall's closed for inclement weather.
But it has to do with weather, or can it be like other like events, like, hey, Main Street's closing at
Yes.
5 o'clock
it's-
today?
Yes, any events.
I think that's, yeah.
Yes.
no doubt, yeah.
So-and-so road is closed for paving, tree down on whatever, I mean, anything that we're
Yeah.
doing,
Or holidays when we swap in garbage days. and
Yes.
stuff.
anything like that. So, it's like $4,300 a year, so that's basically $1 a citizen. So, and I think that would,
Is this a plug-in to the website type of deal, or is it just a standalone type of thing?
it's a standalone, but they use our website and the app looks basically like our
mirrors.
website looks and it mirrors it. They said Calera uses it several other cities and they pulled them up and it looks just like their website. And we can link it to, if we want them to be able to go and see other things from our website, we tell them what to link it to and they can do that, ordinances or business license or whatever. But it's mainly for the notification part.
Okay, so this may solve our deal of, I keep going back to it about closing Main Street. It could assist in that to where
Yes.
all the business owners could be on this deal to where they say,
Yeah.
okay.
And everybody will have to either sign up for
Yeah.
it or get the app, but if they do, then they'll be notified of whatever we're doing.
If it goes through that app, could it update the website as well type of deal? You know what I'm saying? Like a
That
parallel?
it would have to be two different
Okay.
posts or whatever.
Okay.
I think it can link to our Facebook, but I don't think it can link to post to our website.
Okay.
But I can ask that just to see.
That way it just prevents a step from being.
So, we just wanted to share the information with the council and let them know that that's our intention to do this. It doesn't require a resolution or anything like that. But if there were any objections, we wanted to find out if there were any.
And it will take, I think, like 4 to 6 weeks to get it up and going, so it'll be a little while, but we will have it.
I think it's a good thing for our city to have, so. Okay. Mayor's report. Next month, we will have, all the Shelby County mayors will meet at the Pelham Civic Complex. And as we do, it's hosted by the Shelby County Chamber, but we usually have some state representatives there as well as all the municipalities in Shelby County. And we do a state of the city or state of community presentation. So I've been kind of pulling together the data, and I just kind of share it with you and everyone else. So kind of divided it up into categories: growth and economic development, financial data, infrastructure, public safety, recreation, and schools. So most sources that you look at will tell you that they estimate the city's population based on census data, but they all seem to come up with a different number. So at the end of fiscal year 24, the latest data that I've seen is the population for Columbiana is estimated at 4,987, just under 5,000 people. There are several different sources out there that you can look at, again, all saying they get their data from the Census Bureau, but pretty much all of it's close to that 4,987 as far as the estimate. I caution everybody a little bit on the estimates. For example, the only hard numbers that really count are the census counts every 10 years. I'll give you an example. In 2017, the estimates said our population was over 4,600 people, and when the census came out in 2020, it said we had 4,462. The Census Bureau also does these occasional community surveys, and again, it helps them with their estimating, but it's not very accurate. So population actually declined again in 2021, but after that, after the pandemic was over, all the estimates have been showing population increases, and I believe they're accurate, whether or not the number's precise or not. That's about a 2.9% annual growth. The county's been growing at about 2% over that same period of time. So, and I think we've just taken a little bit of a spurt here lately where we kind of were sluggish for a while. As far as some other economic data, are between 2021, or fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 24, our sales tax revenue increased 44%. So that's, I think, a good indicator of the economic condition in the city. Cumulative inflation over the same period was only about 16.4%, so we're ahead of that. Inflation affects the city and the money that we spend and whatnot. Sales tax revenue is our largest source of revenue for funding operations of the city, so I think that bodes well as far as the city's economy. From 21 to 24, business license revenue increased 250%. That's a compound annual growth rate of 25.7%. CAGR, or compound annual growth rates, are numbers that businesses always use to look at growth, because growth is an indicator of the health of a business, and it is an indicator, I think, of a community as well. This would be economic growth. 25.7% per year compounded is fantastic, and so that's how you get to the 250% over time. Building permits, which says that there's activity, and that's associated with subdivisions that we have out there, increased 307%. That's a 32.4% CAGR. And I think this is a positive thing. The face of Main Street has changed. 75% of the storefronts on our one block retail section of Main Street have all changed in the period of 2021 to 2024. And I think it's been for the good. Now, it hasn't been all because this business went out of business or that went out of business. A lot of it has been because the ownership of the buildings has changed hands, and then that has brought in new business and improvements to some of those facilities. So I think that has been a positive. That's my personal opinion. So let's talk about financial. I put an asterisk there. In 2024, we had a general fund surplus of about 5.5 months of general fund expenses. You know, I've talked about this before when we're budgeting, and there's this Government Finance Officers Association says we ought to have a minimum of 2 months of general fund expenses, and we budget right around that 2 months for a surplus. We ended up 24 with 5.5 because of all the things that we talked about, particularly associated with the streets and other things. We didn't spend our money in 2024, so that's the reason I put the asterisk there. Don't get too excited over the fact that we have a 5.5 month surplus in 2024. In this year, 1/3 of our budgeted revenue, it comes from grant funds. You know, you had the American Rescue Plan Act, bipartisan infrastructure law, where monies for this RAISE grant, things like that come from those things. That's going to start dwindling as far as having all that grant money available in the future. Now, again, I got this from Senator Tuberville's staff. You know, we had a meeting with his grant person several years ago at Old Mill Square, and you know he's big on getting grant money and earmarks for Alabama because I think we rated somewhere in the bottom 5 of states in the nation that we're getting grant money, and he says we're going to put a stop to that, and I think that's one of the reasons why Mike Rada said he's such a big supporter of our RAISE application. So infrastructure, so it's talking about streets and roads from 21 to 25, and I've included 25 since we have done most of the paving for this fiscal year already. We've resurfaced 40% of the streets and roads in the city limits of Columbiana. The engineers, kind of as a rule of thumb, they design these roads to where they ought to get a minimum, a 15-year service life. Many of them will, depending upon the traffic that they get, would get more than that. But the street paving plan that we've had in place and that this city council put in place, I think, has been more that has maybe been done in prior years. And at 40% from 21 to 25, at that rate, we would pave all of our streets in 12 years. So we're certainly on track to manage the paving of our streets at least every 15 years. Interestingly enough, I looked at the county roads and the state highways that have been paved as well, and turns out that they've paved 40% of those too. So no matter how you look at it, whether they're the streets that Columbiana is responsible for, or including the streets that the county and the state are responsible for, it's been 40% of the streets and roads in the city limits. We began in 24 our storm drainage project, which is we talked about earlier. Everybody knows about the sewer treatment plant upgrade. And the public works facility structure is essentially done. We get the paving done and the plumbing done and get the electricity in there. We'll start moving into that place this year. Public safety, we've done a lot as far as the volunteer fire department. with SAFER and the AFG grants. You guys are aware of that, about a little over $1 million. A lot of that was this AFG grant for the equipment. Now, some of that equipment went to Wilsonville and Kingdom as well. But we've also increased the funding that the city appropriates for Shelby County, Southeast Shelby Rescue Services. That's been about a 21% increase. We've gotten COPS grants for the police department to help us increase staffing. And one of the things that I'm really proud of and appreciate the support of not only this city council, but Shelby County as well. When we started this administration, we basically had one SRO who was a floater from facility to facility, and now we have a full-time SRO at all the campuses here in Columbiana. Did a lot of work. A lot of the effort, I think, goes to the recreation board and everything with some grant funding that we've gotten. Improved the facilities at Kiwanis Park, pickleball courts at the rec center. We made some upgrades, particularly the flooring in the rec center, softball and baseball lighting that we talked about. And then our contributions to the schools in the city, we've increased those 88%. So I think all that stuff, I think all of you guys can be proud of what we've accomplished over the last going on 5 years now. So, any questions or comments on that?
No, but you mentioned, and I said it last year when we got this CDBG grant, that, you know, you mentioned the grant writing and all that stuff, and Charlene, I've been on that kick for 2 or 3 years now about that lighting, and I'm thrilled to death with that, but I don't think that process would have been as successful if Charlene would have put the effort in.
Yeah, I agree. You guys did a good job on that. And,
so I want to make sure that that's just.
And it's a lot of effort.
Yep.
It really is. Yep. So. Okay, anything else? Any other questions or comments? Announcements. So we got the 5K on the 1st of February. Tree giveaway for part of our Tree City USA project that we do on the 15th, and then Cowboy Day on the 22nd. Allie was a little under weather today, so we were going to have a Cowboy Day planning kickoff today, but we had to reschedule that. So, questions, comments on that? Okay. Anything?
I can imagine if
I
it's
got
this
another
cold and
question about the
Cowboy.
raise grant.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What we got, the paving that we've already done, and the, upgrades to what's already been done, surely that will show them that we're invested.
Yeah, we have to tell that story. Again, and we are doing that. We're trying to make sure we put all that into our proposal. I'm just going by what the people who worked on it said, that they want to see that you're going to commit some funding. They don't want to necessarily say, well, because we did this in the past, we're invested. Although not all of that, some of the things that we're putting in there, like the storm upgrades and things like that, is to show them that we're committed to that now. We're doing that stuff now. But that was the comment that the lady from the Freshwater Land Trust had indicated on that. So, okay.
I just really want that sidewalk and tree down that road.
Well, it's the project is turned out to be bigger and more costly than any of us imagined when we started it. I mean, so now we've got to get it in the box because it's outside the box as far as its cost. And I think we will. We identified a lot of things today in our meeting. Any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.